Good morning, greetings friends, and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm your host, Pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I use nutritional supplements where other healthcare practitioners use toxic pharmaceutical drugs and sometimes deadly medical procedures. If you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your health and vitality and well-being, and to addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be, but you don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your body, you are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health challenge. That is why we are here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 32 years of practicing pharmacy, I have seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes, hypertension, obesity, skin diseases like acne, psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds, recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle, but what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure. Because the human biological system is a healing system, it's a regenerating system. It is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis. And while some folks may call that a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. If you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, if you have a comment or success story you'd like to share, if you have questions about our True Skin Health products or ingredients or something you may have heard about, read about, 844-236-6010 is our number. We love hearing from you. Check out all the longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. And please think about joining the Brightside Ben team for a one-time $25 fee. You can be in business for yourself. We can help you grow your business. You can get your products at the wholesale price. If you're an entrepreneur, it's an ideal business opportunity. Click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com, or call 866-735-2470 for more information, 866-735-2470. Okay, welcome back to The Bright Side. Yesterday, we got a call at the end of the program, right before Brett came on anyway, excuse me, about depression. And I meant to say this, I completely spaced it. I'm reading a book now called The Inflamed Mind. And this is kind of an interesting approach to depression. In fact, the subtitle is A Radical New Approach to Depression. It's written by a professor from University of Oxford in England, Dr. Edward Bulmore. And he's got some really interesting things to say about this idea of inflammation and its association to mental disease or mental illness, which is like in this country is an epidemic. 1 out of 8 to 10 people is diagnosed with anxiety or bipolar disorder, depression or psychosis or some kind of mental health issue. And not surprisingly, there's a link between inflammation and depression. The idea that there are these biochemical correlates, brain chemical correlates really to mental health is really something we're learning more and more about. In fact, the whole idea that inflammation is involved more and more in all health issues, not just mental health issues, but all health issues is something we're learning more and more about. Unfortunately, we got so many misunderstandings about health and about disease, and this is why we have more information than ever before about how the body works. We have more diagnostics, we got more devices, we got more drugs, we got more treatments, we got more surgical procedures, we got fancier surgical procedures. They can do surgical procedures now across the world. You can have a surgeon in China operating on your hernia in New York City via remote control and robots. Robots are doing a lot of surgeries now. Yes, robots. With a little bit of help from their friends, perhaps thousands and thousands of miles away. Technology and medicine have, the link between technology and medicine has become so intimate and has grown so exponentially over the last 20 years. Just recently, it's like Star Trek. It's like science fiction. But still, look how sick we are. The problem is we got all these misunderstandings about how our bodies work. That's what I want to do on this program. Yes, I talk about nutrition and nutritional supplementation, but really the goal of the Bright Side radio program is to clear up misunderstandings, to clarify and simplify how the body works. And it's not that complicated, but we still haven't figured it out as a species. We still haven't figured out how to do the simple things to control our bodies. We're obsessed with the technology. But all the simple things we just ignore. Yesterday, there was an article that was all over the news about increasing childhood cancer. Yes, childhood cancer is now a thing. And guess what's causing it? Obesity in young adults. Quote, this is from CNN. Quote, cancers fueled by obesity are on the rise among young adults in the United States and appearing at increasingly younger ages. That means we're talking 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds are dealing with cancers caused by childhood obesity. This is craziness. We really want to simplify. We do. Admittedly, we go into the weeds a little bit, but we really want to simplify things. That's the goal. You want to hear some simplification? Here's simplification for you. If you're not healthy, or you are and you want to stay healthy, here's simplification. All chronic disease is inflammation and immune system related. Period. End of story. I don't know how much simpler I could be here. All chronic disease is inflammation and immune system disorder or immune system involved, we'll say. I don't like saying that it's a disorder of the immune system because the immune system's just doing its thing. It's not like there's a disorder. We have an autoimmune disease. It's not an immune system problem. Really, the immune system is doing its thing. It's protecting us. That's where we really want to be working, is on the protection component. Why is it protecting us? Not shutting down the protection. That's the medical strategy, and it is stupidity of the highest degree to shut down the immune system when the immune system is active. It's like putting a duct tape on your baby when your baby is crying. It's the stupidest thing in the world to shut down the immune system. If you need to do it temporarily because because of bad living, we are in severe pain. Well, I could see temporarily because pain is, that's the ultimate, obviously. But to just shut down the immune system chronically with prednisone, with steroid creams, with so-called biologics now they have, it's just lunacy. An intelligent response would be, what the heck is causing the immune system to become hyperactive? In the book, The Inflamed Mind, which is definitely something you want to read if you have any kind of chronic health issue, if you have any kind of mental health issue, but even if you have a chronic health issue, quote, it is difficult to think of a disease that isn't caused or complicated by inflammation or autoimmunity, and it is equally difficult to think of a disease that isn't associated with depression, fatigue, anxiety, or some other mental symptom. So when you go to the doctor, you say you have these symptoms like fatigue, that's just the symptom. That's not the problem. That's the end result of the problem. Mental illness is always either a cause or an end result of a physical illness. They go together like a circle. Usually both are involved. It's like a chicken and egg phenomena. Mental illness is caused by inflammation. Inflammation causes more mental illness, causes more inflammation, causes more mental illness, causes more inflammation, on you go. And it's impossible not to have this kind of circle, this kind of endless loop without having physical symptomology like high blood pressure, like immune diseases, like digestive problems, like hypothyroidism with it. And so if you want iodine for your thyroid, but you haven't taken care of all this stuff underneath it, particularly the inflammation and immunity, good luck. And that's why thyroid drugs don't work. Thyroid hormones and thyroid remedies don't work. This link between mind and body is, in my opinion, the most important, or at least it's an important leverage point that we have over our health, our mind. This month's Scientific American, and by the way, when I say mind, I'm talking about perception of the world, how we see the world. Scientific American has a cover story this month about how the brain reads faces. As it turns out, yesterday we talked about fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. We are learning so much about the brain now. It's incredible what we're learning about the brain and the various parts that do various things and the various parts that are activated when different things happen. We can actually find places in the brain through fMRI that are activated by little curves on people's faces. Everybody's face is read like a map by our brain, and every little curve is interpreted by a specific area of the brain. That's how we recognize faces. Little areas of the brain light up depending on topographical features of somebody's face, map-like qualities of people's faces. All right, we'll continue when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. Okay, we are back on the bright side. 844-236-6010 is our number. Got lines open for you if you have questions about anything we're speaking about here today, if you agree or disagree. I know we've been talking a lot about consciousness and quantum and electrons and all this kind of in the weeds sort of stuff. I find it incredibly fascinating. Hope you guys do too. It really is more than just fascinating. It's a leverage point. It's not just, we're not just indulging our imaginations and thought processes and mental bodies, and this is not just for fun. This also represents a very powerful leverage point for our health. Understanding the link between mind and body is a key way to understand how the body is put together for better or worse. 844-236-6010 is our number. Got lines open for you. Before we went to break, we were talking about this idea that the brain reads faces. And when it reads faces, guess what it's reading? Largely, at least at first. Ultimately, it's recognizing specifics. But at first, it only cares about one thing. One thing and one thing only. Are you friendly? That's the only thing the brain cares about when it sees a face. And it is doing all kinds of algorithms and computer programming and quantum chemistry in response to that answer to that question. Albert Einstein said famously, one of his most famous quotes actually is, he said, all that matters, I forgot how he said it, but he said something like the most important decision that we can possibly make is whether we live in a friendly or unfriendly universe. And in that way, he is talking about the body's autonomic nervous system, the fundamental subconscious, underneath our awareness. We don't know this is kicking in. Nervous system. It's called the autonomic nervous system. It controls blood pressure. It controls heart rate. It controls digestive functioning. It controls the thyroid. It controls thinking. It controls everything we love about being alive, or vice versa. It's called the autonomic nervous system. There's no disease, none, period, end of story, that is not foundationally, at least in the nervous system, fundamentally related to the autonomic nervous system. We've talked about it a million times, even though we don't say the autonomic nervous system. It's your fight or flight or rest and digest nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has two branches, or two forks, if you will, two ways that it can operate. Is you safe or is you an enemy? Basically, if you're safe, and when I say you, I mean people and experiences, things in our life. If we see the world as safe, we activate one branch of the autonomic nervous system, the safety branch, the friendly branch, i.e. the parasympathetic nervous system. And if we're not safe, we activate the sympathetic nervous system. And that's, I'm generalizing. There are specifics that may be a little bit different, but generally speaking, more and more we're understanding. By the way, this is called polyvagal therapy or polyvagal theory. And you probably haven't heard of that, and we haven't talked about it specifically, but we have talked about it because we were always saying it's about whether you see the world as parasympathetic or sympathetic. Inflammation is sympathetic. It represents long-term activation of the sympathetic nervous system, and that's what we mean by dis-ease, out of ease. And by the way, there's this whole Christian mythology or meme about Jesus saving. Well, guess what? From a neurological perspective, it doesn't mean you have to be saved. It means you have to be safe. From a neurological, biological perspective, this whole idea about being saved is really about being safe, about activating the parasympathetic nervous system, about being parasympathetic. We want to feel safe. We want to be safe. It's not about being saved. It's about being safe. At least from a biological perspective. You could debate it theologically, or speaking if you like, but from a biological perspective, it's about being safe. The most important decision we make is whether we believe we live in a safe or unsafe universe, whether this situation is safe or unsafe, whether this experience is safe or unsafe. And ultimately, when we're sick, we're too much in the unsafe world. We're too sympathetic. Got a text here during the break from a good friend of mine. I know he's listening. He's a very wise researcher. I know you're out there listening. He says, I have an informed theory about sleep apnea. It verifies what Doc says. Basically, he says that it has to do with, quote, olfactory nerve input sensors at the thalamus. Mouth breathers send no information. I said, maybe that's involved. Maybe the olfactory nerves, those are the nerves of smell, are involved. Maybe the thalamus is involved. But guess what? Fundamentally, you're not going to go into your thalamus and change your thalamus around. That's a part of your brain for you guys who don't know. What you can control is the inflammation, which is the cause of everything. The reason the olfactory nerve input sensors aren't working is because there's inflammation. Sleep apnea is an inflammatory issue, and it's a horrible one that leads to all kinds of health challenges. And every doctor knows that if you have sleep apnea, you're more than likely to have obesity issues, body fat issues, and blood sugar issues. And if you have those, you most likely have a digestive problem. That's what I'm saying. We got to simplify. And yes, we're talking quantum, and yes, we're talking electron, and yes, that's kind of indulgent, but it's a very powerful leverage point, because guess what controls the quantum? The mind, the consciousness, our beliefs, our expectations, our conditioning, our programming. All of that is our consciousness, which represents our consciousness, is in control of how our body takes shape. Beliefs, expectations, conditioning, programming are about consciousness. And our consciousness takes shape in and as the physical body. Dis-ease, you can have a body that's out of ease. You can have it in dis-ease, which is the end result of protection, long-term protection, which itself can cause more disease. It's a vicious downward spiral. And this protective response is called inflammation. That's what inflammation is, or immunity. Immunity and inflammation. Inflammation is the calling card of immunity. The immune system, inflammation is caused by an activated immune system, and this is where the quantum reality kicks in. The order of progression of how we experience our lives is consciousness first, then quantum, then chemistry, then biology, then us. Doctors work at the level of biology and chemistry, mostly biology, and then chemistry. If they're smart, they'll go to chemistry. Nutrition is chemistry. Drugs are chemistry too. Most doctors are in this somewhere between chemistry and biology, but they're definitely not at the level of the quantum, although they're maybe just starting to understand how electrons and quantum physics really plays a role in how the body is taking shape. There's a new science called quantum biology. It's about 20 years old. A lot of the stuff we're talking about in this radio program really I wouldn't be talking about it in 1999 or 1998. This is pretty cutting-edge stuff, at least how it relates to the body at the most important constructive levels, which is the level of the cell. This is kind of high-tech. This is sort of cutting-edge stuff you're hearing. So quantum biology is just now starting to get into vogue a little bit, among scientists. But guess what? In the future, we're going to be doing it at the consciousness level, and we can certainly start today. And this, to me, is the prime lesson of quantum mechanics. At least the prime lesson of quantum mechanics and the body, is how consciousness is the control point, is the leverage point. How we see the world. It's so important, if you're sick, to understand this, how we see the world. You can, no matter what your diagnostic symptoms are, if you change the way you see the world, you're going to feel better. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back on the bright side right after this. All right, we're back. We are back on the bright side. 844-236-6010 is our number. Got lots of lines open for you. I am Pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I'm more than a nutritional pharmacist, though. Nutrition is definitely one of my healing modalities. But as we've been discussing for the last couple of months, and I will continue to discuss, there are more powerful, or I shouldn't say more powerful, just as powerful places that we can work, maybe more powerful even. They're certainly more foundational when it comes to our health, and that's where consciousness and the mind come in. And that is so darn important. I personally got into understanding the mind when I was a teenager, we'll say. And it completely changed my life for the better, way better. And that's why I'm kind of on this little soapbox trying to help people understand the power of the way we see the world. And I was going to read a couple stories. I still got a few stories here I want to read, but I was checking my email during the break, and got a really interesting one from Ron. So I know you're listening, Ron. And he says, how the hell do we change the way we see the world after a lifetime of struggle, loss, and worry? And then he put about 20 exclamation points. And guess what? I can relate. It's called entropy. Entropy is the tendency that things have to fall apart. The opposite of entropy, believe it or not, is information. Or if you like, if you're a physicist, neg-entropy. Today we have information theory, which tells us that information is the opposite of struggle, loss, and worry. Get that? Isn't that cool? Struggle, loss, and worry represent entropy. Information is the opposite of entropy. Thus, information is the opposite of struggle, loss, and worry. We need to become informed about how everything works. Struggle, loss, and worry are anti-information in the set, or our response to struggle, our loss, and worry. Entropy shows up in the world, and we respond. This is what Brett was talking about yesterday. We have the ability to respond. For most of us, we are responding via conditioning, hypnotic conditioning. Hypnotic conditioning that has been implanted into us unconsciously or consciously. You can debate it. If it's consciously, it's evil. If it's unconsciously, it's stupid. And you can say it's stupid or evil, and there's a debate there. I don't know the answer to that one. I'm probably an element of both. There are certainly forces that profit off of our conditioning, and we're conditioned to respond a certain way without thinking about it. We're conditioned to automatically respond to our circumstances, and what makes a powerful person is a person who can intervene consciously. What makes an unpowerful person is a person who just reacts. What makes a powerful person is a person who responds. Most of the time, we react, not respond. So the question is, how do we change all that? Well, listen. It's not a question of how, it's a question of do we want to? How is easy. Or I shouldn't say it's easy. How is simple? Deconditioning is never easy. Dehypnosis. I have a really cool book called Unhypnosis. There's another book called Unf Yourself. You have to use your imagination for what F stands for. Unf yourself. Unhypnotize. Decondition. That's not easy. That is struggle. That is discomfort. That requires serious motivation. And guess what? When you hit bottom, you'll have serious motivation. There is a bottom that you can hit. That's what it means to hit bottom, is you have enough motivation to break the cycle of conditioning. Is it going to be easy? No, but you'll have enough motivation to do it. You'll be able to break through it. In systems biology or systems theory, there's this idea that systems will stay the same until a bunch of energy is put into it, and then the system will rearrange itself. We call that exercise. Muscles stay the same, or they actually deteriorate over time. Unless you put energy into the muscle, then the muscle becomes more complex and stronger. That's called systems biology or systems theory, and you can use it in your life. By putting energy into your life through consciousness and awareness, you can decondition yourself, and that's the key, to decondition. So I hope I answered you, Ron. I wouldn't, this is just interesting. I wouldn't necessarily answer in the middle of a show, but this is just interesting that you asked. All right, let me just do a couple stories, then we'll get your phone calls, 844-236-6010, and we do have lines open for you. This one got my attention, as you'll see, as you'll be able to imagine when you hear the title. How fasting can improve overall health. From the University of California at Irvine, researchers found evidence that fasting affects circadian clocks in the liver and skeletal muscle, causing them to rewire their metabolism, which can ultimately lead to improved health and protection against aging-associated diseases. Where have you heard that before? I'm telling you, folks, what you hear on this radio program today is what you're going to hear in the news, and you're just going to start to read about in more readily accessible, through more readily accessible sources in 5 years, in 2 years. And things are happening faster and faster, so 2 or 3 years. And I've been talking about fasting for decades, how important it is. Intermittent fasting, or also calorie restriction, which is similar. So anyway, this is from the journal Cell Reports, and they're associating the circadian clock, which is this biological rhythm that happens in our body in response to the hours of the day. Circadian clock, it's called a clock because it's kind of like a clock. At 1 o'clock, you have a certain biology. At 2 o'clock, you have a certain biology. At 3 o'clock, you have a certain biology. And this chemical clock is called the circadian rhythm, or also the circadian clock. And it influences how healthy we're going to be. And it turns out that fasting influences the circadian clock. It readjusts the circadian clock. It readjusts the genes. Actually, it regulates the genes. How you like that? Fasting becomes an epigenetic phenomena, And this is why Dr. Wallach and myself and other smart healthcare professionals have always said that you don't want to be tied into the genetics of disease, because you have numerous ways of changing your genetics, including nutrition, including diet, including fasting, including consciousness. In fact, everything we do affects our genes. Every thought we think creates a genetic change. Our genes are changed by the very thoughts we think, and certainly how we see the world, as well as nutrition, and as it turns out now, at least according to the folks at the University of California, by fasting as well. All right. Oh, here's another one on fasting. I'll read this one, then we'll get your calls. 844-236-6010. Adults with atopic dermatitis and repeated short-term fasting. Body weight. This was a case study on one particular person. A 23-year-old man with atopic dermatitis received a treatment of repeated short-term fasting. 24-hour fasting was conducted once a week for 20 weeks. And at the end of the trial, weight was reduced and clinical symptoms improved. Researchers continue, or they conclude, for sufficient evidence of the effects of fasting, additional controlled study is needed. No, it isn't. Just fast and watch how much better you feel and how your symptoms, your inflammatory symptoms, tend to improve. That's what I didn't say that when I said talked about inflammation. One of the major first causes, the most important causes of inflammation, is your digestive system, and that is why on this program and whenever I'm talking to anybody, the first thing I always talk about is the digestive system. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. Got lots of lines open for you. Let's go to Gary real quick. Actually, let's go to Gary, see what Gary has to say. You there, buddy? Hey, Gary.
Yeah, I'm here, Ben. Can you hear me
up?
okay?
How you feeling? How's your eyes? How's your eyesight?
The glaucoma's 20/20 vision, and they're great. And that injury, that fall I had last January, I've been doing well with that. It's slow but steady. I do my therapy every morning.
Now, you're a 70-year-old man. Is that right, Gary? I don't mean to out you out.
72 May 30th.
That's awesome. And you got some serious spunk.
My HDL was 134. Doctor's never seen that.
Yeah, you got some serious spunk. Hang on. Hey, Gary, hang on a minute because we got to take a break.
I got a question for you.
Okay, just hang tight because we got to take a break, and then we'll come back to you after our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side, and got lines open 844-236-6010. We'll be back right after this. On the bright side, Pharmacist Ben here, 844-236-6010. Got lines open. We're talking to Gary in Minnesota. Hey, Gary, there?
I'm right here.
Hey, you got a website, right, Gary?
Yes, GaryTotalHealth.com. GaryTotalHealth.com.
And is it is it just for your own pleasure?
I can help people if they want to get together. I'm retired, but I will help some people if they want to get together and work something out.
And you're a 72-year-old guy who works out every day, right?
Right. I had that injury last January. I fell, my first injury in my life. I broke some bones, humerus, and everything, and I'm getting better and better. So
have you always been like a workout guy, workout warrior?
It'll say on my website, if you read, I started lifting weights when I was like 15 years old, 16 years old. Always been working out. I was fasting in the 70s.
Is that right?
Fast. But, I didn't have the right information. I would do real well, but because of lack of information, you'd fall off. I just didn't have the information back in the 70s. And the
70s were like the Stone Age for nutrition and health.
Right. I would fast, get in good shape, but then I went back maybe eating some I just didn't have the information. I wish I would have had you back then.
Did people think you were crazy back then?
If I had you, I'd lived 150 if I had you advising me back then.
No, check this out, Gary. Did people think you were crazy back in the 70s?
I was jogging in the 60s and the 70s, and they used to, with my shirt off, and they would blow the horn at you back in those days.
And where did you get supplements?
Where? I always went to co-ops and stuff like that.
So there were always like health places where they had nutrition, but it wasn't anything like today, probably.
No, I did start using fish oil in the 80s.
Did you ever get into life extension, the life extension people?
No.
Okay, because they were big in the 70s, too. They were the first. That was really the first place I kind of heard about nutrition. I was a little kid, of course, but it's sort of...
Yeah, I've never had a surgery or taken a pill, so I never really had a lot of problems. I just worked out a lot. I overtrained, like most people do, and things like that.
Are you on any medication now?
No, none, except for a couple drops for the glaucoma eye.
Let's move. I don't like the glaucoma. We got to fix that. But what's going on? How can we help you today?
I need your help. Okay. I can't lift weights because of my injury. I only light stretching and doing stuff like that. So I do a lot of power walking and stuff. I got a painful callus 1 inch under my right toe. I'll do the quick version because I know we're on the radio. I went to my doctor, and he did testing and everything. Left off with him. Then
what did he test? What did he test? Hang on. What did he test? The callus?
No, he did he's kind of a weird guy. He did ultrasound.
On what? The bone? The foot?
Yeah, and then he sent me for some pictures too.
This is an MD?
Everything is okay, I guess.
Hang on, Gary. Gary, this is an MD?
Yes.
And this was an MD you went to because you had the callus under your toe?
Yes. Well, he does stem cells. He does like everything. He's done the blood testing for me. Since I had the injury,
all for the foot? All for your foot?
Well, I had him look at it. I didn't know where to go because I didn't want to get cut and go right away to a podiatrist.
Here's your problem, buddy. Okay, it's related to your shoulder. You're walking wrong.
Right, I know it. Yeah,
your
absolutely.
gait is off, and so the body's all, every part's connected to the other. You need body work, and if it was me, I would be finding a rolfer. And I suggest anybody who's got any kind of bodily issues like that, structural issues, go to a rolfer. I cannot express to you how amazing my rolfer is. Or I will say rolfing in general, but I've only been to one rolfer, and it's just amazing what they can do to restructure you. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. And it's also amazing how the connective tissue and the bones and the skeletal system are linked to the organs, so that when you have a skeletal or connective tissue issue at the level of your structure, at your structural level, it's very likely that you're going to have a related issue with the organs. They're all connected. So you can do a lot with body work and a lot with rolfing, and I'm a big believer.
Is that like a chiropractor kind of?
No, rolfing is a specific technology, a specific structural technology that involves the scar tissue and fibrosis and releasing it. See, as we age and as the body, as bad habits accrue, as we walk funny, as we start eating as we eat the wrong foods and become nutritionally deficient, breathe the wrong way, just as life kicks in over the course of time, for most of us, our structure starts to break down. When the structure breaks down, the body fills in the structural breakdown with fibers. This is a fundamental mechanism of disease and aging, is fibrosis and adhesions. And if you've had surgeries, it's even worse.
I've never had one.
What's that? Well, you're lucky, but over the course of time, you're an athlete. You had to have little connective tissue tweaks, little minor breaks and tears that have been filled up with fibers. Over the course of 70 years, when you got all these fibers, the fibers keep the system from moving like it should. It can create all kinds of havoc down the road. So the way you handle it is you have to have those fibers broken up, the scar tissue broken up, so the tissue can heal. Not the skin, the tissue can heal, and that's why body work is, to me, it's so important. Now, of course, things like the glucogel caps and vitamin C, keeping your sugar intake down, these are all other ways to help improve the healing. But once those adhesions are there, you're not going to really address that nutritionally. You have to have that mechanically. It's a mechanical problem. You have to have that addressed mechanically, and that's why, to me, body work is so darn important. Everybody should have it. There's no way you can be 70 or 60. And by the way, if you exercise like you are, Gary, you can make matters worse. You understand? You can make the problem worse because if your body's not structurally correct when you're lifting.
On a little bit of pain, a little bit.
Yeah, you can make the things worse. You can make matters worse because you're going to start walking funny. You're going to start tweaking. If you're out there in the gym and you have a shoulder problem, you start doing compensation sorts of things as you're doing your bench press, your chin ups. You can wreak havoc on the body. So it sounds like exercise can be great, but you could be making matters worse. Long story short, cut to the chase, find a rolfer. Where do you live anyway? Or you're in Minnesota, right?
Minneapolis, Minnetonka, Minnesota.
Oh, there's tons of rolfers there. Yeah, just get online or look them.
Do you have one in mind I can get from you off?
I don't know anybody in Minnesota.
Okay,
I know my rolfer, Joy Ohm, her name is, and man, she is absolutely the best. Every time I have a little pain or a little tweak somewhere, I go to Joy, And as soon as I get out, I'm 100%, 100% better just with one rolfing session. I mean, I'm talking, I've had my wrist to where it kept popping out. I don't know if they ever experienced that. I fell and on my wrist kept popping out. It was painful. I had it rolfed. In 2-3 months of just misery, it took me 2-3 months to finally go see her. It was gone in 1 hour of rolfing. I mean, it's just an amazing body.
I will follow up on that. My question is, my lady companion gets those stuff on her feet for years. She goes to a podiatrist and he shaves them and cuts and stuff like that. Seems
calluses? Yeah, calluses on the heel, that's one thing. But on the toe is really bad. The toes, it's funny, your toes are very, very important for the rest of your body.
No kidding.
It all starts at the very extremities, the toes. They're the tiniest little parts of our body, but they are probably in many ways, at least from a structural point of view, the most important part of our bodies, the toes. It's kind of interesting.
Ben, if that was you, would you consider going to the podiatrist?
No, I would never go to a podiatrist unless there was a break and I needed surgery. I would never go to a doctor, period, unless there was a break or something that needed to be reconstructed. That is where they excel. Absolutely, that's where the medical model excels. But if it's a chemistry issue or it's a structural issue like that, I go to a rolfer, maybe a chiropractor. Rolfer first, though, but a chiropractor also. But I wouldn't mess with a podiatrist. No. Did I answer your question?
That's why I called you. Main reason, it scares me. I don't want them cutting on me.
Rolf, R-O-L-F. Ida Rolf was, if you're curious about the term, rolfing, Ida Rolf was a Russian massage therapist, I think, maybe, physiologist. I'm not sure what she was, actually. But she came up with the idea of the concept of breaking adhesions and breaking scar tissue. She actually said that adhesions and scar tissue have a psychological component. We get harder, our bodies get harder as we psychologically get harder and protect more, like we were talking earlier. And it turns out a lot of people cry when they get rolfed. Like while they're being rolfed, they're crying, not in the pain, because of the pain, and it can be a little painful, but because things are being released. And massage therapists say the same thing. They say when they, a lot of times when people are on their massage table, they'll cry as things are released from the body. Psychological trauma is released from the body. And Ida Rolf was one of the first people to talk about this idea of holding psychological trauma in the connective tissue, holding psychological trauma in the body structure itself. And that's a whole nother aspect to physiologic issues like connective tissue problems like pain and like you're describing, calluses and weird parts of your body. Gary, been fun talking to you, bro. Got to go, though. That's it for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day. All right, and we are out of time on the bright side. Check out our websites, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com for all the longevity products. And, of course, go to truthtreatments.com for all our Truth Skin Health products. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, silicone oil, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want. And any of our Truth Skin Health products, they're all up at truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. Thanks for listening. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.